10 by 10, written by Lisle and Ellis. The new Orchestra Quintet, and that's from their new album, Up Till Now. Paul Cram on alto and tenor saxophones, Ralph Eppel on trombone and euphonium, Paul Plimley on piano, Lisle Ellis on bass, Gregg Simpson on drums and percussion. And Paul, can you tell me about the group? It's a very free group. It seems to allow a lot of room for the individual to grow, and very receptive to new ideas.
Well, that's right. We're exploring two main processes in our music. One is composition, and the other is improvisation. And I suppose that we're trying to cover both those areas in as many sort of new and unexpected ways as we can.
The music
to ourselves, you know. We're
Oh yes.
Find something of ourselves in the music with this collaboration of 5 musicians, although we've all played together in different settings over, you know, the past few years in this area in Vancouver. But this particular combination of people seems to work really well. It seems to bring out something totally unexpected, as Paul says, in each and every one of us.
That sense of adventure and discovery being
exactly.
important.
Yeah.
As individuals, you're each contributing compositions and then groups as a whole, but these are written out?
And the pieces on this record?
Yes.
Yeah, there's of course some pieces that involve motivic, melodic, rhythmic material that's predetermined, you know, and there are some pieces as well that are just, there's one piece, the title piece, Up Till Now, is completely spontaneous. There's no predetermined material at all.
And there's a piece that is just a structure, form that we improvise over.
Mm-hmm.
Different relationships of players to each other, you know, sets of duos within the group, and things like that. In fact, it's a conducted piece, an improvised conducted piece, but we have a form that we're really only improvising on.
Let's hear that piece, Up Till Now, and you say this is just...
Yeah, this is totally spontaneous.
Right. There is no written material at all.
Nothing discussed about this piece at all beforehand.
We simply turned on the tape and we started playing, and we wanted to make a homogeneous piece of music together.
Well, we did think that we wanted to use a certain amount of time on this to fill up the record.
Of course, you know, on a record date you have to watch the time quite carefully, because you can only get so much on a side of wax. That's one of the problems with this medium, is that the music usually goes a lot longer than the record will last.
That's why it's so full.
All right, the new Orchestra Quintet and Up Till Now. That was a spontaneous composition, improvisation, and I believe that's the only one on the album. Yet there's some writing involved with the other selections. Is that so?
Yeah, that's right. Most of the other pieces have some kind of structures, melodic structures or whatever. That one is completely spontaneous.
The written pieces of Gary have often a lot of spontaneous playing written into them, in the sense of sections where people can sort of stretch out on their instrument, and or conversely there can be a lot of group interplay.
Yeah, the premise of the music is improvisation.
And so basically it's not as if that the spontaneous playing and those pieces that have written parts of them are contradictory in any way. It's just that they, you know, each have sort of different facets of improvising that can be explored. And I guess in a way it's partly a question of degree as to how much of the music will be predetermined and how will be, you know, how much will be totally spontaneous on the other hand.
Yeah, you use the structures, the compositions are used in such a way that they're like a launching pad for the music. You know, whatever is going to come out in the music is determined by what you lay down in the beginning. But if you're just playing completely spontaneously, you don't have anything to work with. So you know, simultaneously we have to get together and while we're making the music, put together all the elements of sound and rhythm and everything right at the moment to make the music.
Spontaneous composition, you could call it.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Well, it
Group composition.
ends up making some kind of sense, but a lot of the times the music doesn't work, or it seems when it works, it always sounds very strange to you at first. It's like hearing your own voice back on a tape recorder. You don't recognize it at first because it's so strange, but that's usually when the music is very interesting, is because it is something that's totally unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'd like to add too that it's a very difficult form for making strong music. It just really challenges, well, both the individual and his responsibility in order to bring music out of him, which is not, pulling out his formulas or his cliches or just whatever kind of licks that he has. And then also for the individual to, relate to the whole group in trying to make a collective, musical statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to ask more about that in a moment, but we'll take a break. At this point, we're talking to members of the new Orchestra Quintet and listening to their new recording, Up Till Now, their organizational structure.
Well, the basic quintet came together about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and contained 2 or 3 different combinations of people who had done a lot of playing together in the past. Paul Plimley and myself, and Lisle and Paul and myself and Lisle and Paul and Ralph, and there's a lot of different combinations of people going back a number of years in some cases. And we found this combination was particularly successful from an individual standpoint and also as a group sound. And so we pursued it and eventually expanded into what we call New Orchestra Workshop, which has done everything from bring out Carl Berger to do workshops,
Sam Rivers,
Oliver Lake, people like that, and Joe McPhee, and we've done things with these people from out of town, and then we've also opened up our own workshop facilities here to teach creative music, and formed a community orchestra, which you'll be hearing more about in the future, and some other groups too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a music collective, or cooperative, I should say, that's underway right now, and it's involving all about 20 musicians. And out of that, the main collaboration is the orchestra, of course. Not everybody plays in the orchestra. The orchestra is 14 pieces right now, and there's 4 or 5 ensembles that come out of that congregation.
So the doors are open to the public for people who are really interested in this mode of operation to become involved.
Yeah, right.
And to participate.
Yeah, the main way to get involved, I guess, would be on Tuesday nights we have a public workshop, which is open to anybody on any level that wants to come down, and there's usually guiding artists there on Tuesday night, and they put the people through some changes, using music as the medium.
Mm-hmm. The next selection on the album is Terminal Shift, written by the quintet and arranged by Ralph Eppel. Ralph, can you tell me about this next work we're going to hear?
Well, I just arranged this piece. Actually, we put it together just by wanting to try a piece that would utilize different combinations of players. Like we do it in our spontaneous playing, where we'll duet at different times, or trio. But we wanted to try and do it so everybody would have a chance within one piece to play with someone else in a duet form. Well, that was the first terminal shift that we came out with. This has evolved to where this piece still has duets in it, but they're within a structure that has an improvised conducted area. Now this is a soloist will conduct the 4 other people in the performance. Then he'll play a solo, and after the solo has progressed into something, the duets will come in underneath, and then it will switch to the next person. He'll do the same thing. He'll conduct the rest of the ensemble until everybody's had a chance to do that.
Terminal Shift from from the new Orchestra Workshop's new album called Up Till Now, recorded here in Vancouver at Psychord Studios. The recording engineer, Robin Spurgeon. The new Orchestra Quintet composed it. It was arranged by Ralph Eppel. Paul Cram on alto and tenor saxophones, Ralph Eppel on trombone and euphonium, Paul Plimley on piano, Lisle Ellis on bass, Gregg Simpson on drums and percussion. I'm Gary Barclay, and this is the Saturday all-night show from CHQM. The interview was recorded last Sunday at my home studios in Deep Cove. That's from their new album called Up Till Now, recorded here in Vancouver. And Gregg, recently you and some of the other members had a chance to travel back east and take the album with you. What kind of response did you have?
Well, basically, Gary, we were on a tour with one of the other groups in New Orchestra Workshops, Sessione Milano, which is more of a kind of a conceptual chamber group. And while we were back there, we picked up the record which was being pressed in Toronto, and the covers were done there. And we picked them up there and just did a little distribution and got some very good connections through Coda Magazine, Canadian jazz magazine, and its editor, Bill Smith, who also we did some playing with. And he opened up his extensive files of European correspondence and people in the jazz business there and radio stations in the States that carry a lot of jazz music and new music. And also through the Music Gallery in Toronto, which is a thriving center of new music there, we managed to make a lot of connections for distributing the record in Canada, so it'll be available most of the record shops pretty soon.
All right, and you'll find it now in the specialty jazz and blues record stops.
Places like that.
All right.
Good plug.
Now, we were talking earlier about some of the visual aspects of the music. I wonder if you approach the music with any mental image in mind, that you're communicating images or pictures.
Well, that last piece, the terminal shift, it was quite visual, actually. You know, that when we're conducting, some of us are just jumping up and down, you know, to pointing to people and running around before our instruments to bells and bottles, like Lisle was playing. I don't know if you can hear it on the pressing, but it's pouring water out of a bottle in his conducted area or in his solo area. And it's, you know, that's pretty visual and funny.
Yes, I was thinking this would be in a live performance. Do you try to communicate pictures through sound itself? So someone listening to the radio or the record, would they be able to see shapes and pictures?
You mean, like, are we using slides or paintings in our music presentations? Gary, is that the question? Or are you talking directly about conducting or any sort of theatrical aspect that we may be doing through movement, whether it's on our instruments or going from point A to point B?
Maybe he means more like what they call synesthesia, where you hear colors and see sounds.
Exactly.
I think that's what you're getting at in this sense. I think that's a big element of it, because a lot of us kind of have that aspect where we're bringing other things to the music, or other sensibilities other than just your ears. So you kind of you start inflecting the music with patterns and shapes or mythologies that are in your mind at the time.
And body.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The album is Up Till Now, the new Orchestra Quintet. Paul Cram, who is unable to be here tonight, is heard on alto and tenor saxophones, Ralph Eppel on trombone and euphonium, Paul Plimley on piano, L.S. Ellis on bass, Gregg Simpson on drums and percussion. And we're going to take a break for news at this point and return with the final cut, Paul Plimley's Delicate Chestnut Roll.
Since Yvonne Rebroff released his first record in...
Tell us about your Delicate Chestnut Roll.
Well, Gary, I think the most interesting aspect of this composition is how in our solos on this number, how they're geared towards our playing directly out of a jazz idiom, both, well, in our solos and in the ensemble. And the melody itself, it's just basically coming out of...
that tradition.
Yeah, post-bop tradition. That's right. So I think more than any other composition on the album, it really sort of shows most directly our jazz roots, in that it does follow, like a a more of a conventional sort of outlay of playing music.
The new orchestra quintet from their album Up Till Now, Paul Cram on alto and tenor saxophones, Ralph Eppel on trombone and euphonium, Paul Plimley on piano, Lisle Ellis on bass, and Gregg Simpson on drums and percussion. Listen to their new album, Up Till Now. You'll find it in the jazz specialty stores in and around Vancouver. And you can also hear them live at the Operational Center at 1616 West 3rd Avenue. There are various ensembles there every Friday and Saturday night.
Chord orchestra on Monday nights, and public workshops, music workshops on Tuesday nights, getting underway around 8 o'clock. And you can give us a call. We have a telephone now.
It concerts every Friday and Saturday as well. Yeah, those are important too.
Do you wish to give out the number?
Yeah, the telephone is 733-5679.
All right. Thank you all for falling by and bringing the album and sharing it with our listeners.
All right.
And wish you every success.
Thank you
the
very
album.
much,
This
Gary.
is that first step, you know, and getting that album out, it'll give an opportunity to people, for all the good ears, to hear that outside of Vancouver as well.
That's true.
We hope so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sounds of the World presents Ivan Rebroff. A bearded giant who looks every bit the Cossack he often portrays. This versatile